Hey everyone, welcome again. Our third episode this week of our Black History Month project. Really looking forward to this one. Today we're going to be tying into who we looked at last week. So last week we looked at Septimus Severus, the first Black Roman emperor. Also one of the only Roman emperors to have died in Britain, although his remains, his body didn't stay here. But still he left a mark and a presence in Britain, which ties into this week. So today we're going to be looking at the Ivory Bangle lady. Now the Ivory Bangle lady gets a lot of historians and professors excited for those who are experts in this. I'm no expert in regards to history, but I really do enjoy it and really do love it. And so the Ivory Bangle lady is known to have been a young lady, a young woman of African descent. Based on the scientific analysis and data recorded, she also is of mixed heritage. The Ivory Bangle lady is known to have lived in York, where her remains are found in York. Known to have lived around in the 4th century Common Era, which is roughly 100 years or so after Septimus Severus stepped foot in Britain, which leads me to believe that based on Septimus Severus's expedition here to Britain with his army, which would have consisted of a diverse army, but absolutely other Roman Africans, also would have left. There would have been a presence still remaining that seems to point in that direction of having a black presence still residing here in Britain. And it's not just for the fact of the Ivory Bangle lady, where we're going to look at in a little bit more detail, but also other artifacts that have been found in York and other parts of Britain that date around the 3rd, especially the 4th century, that reflect African pottery, certain artifacts that were of African descent, which seems to imply that there was a clear black presence of Roman Africans residing here in Britain. And the Ivory Bangle lady is called that because of the possessions that she was found with once archaeologists had excavated her remains and her sarcophagus, her coffin was what we would call. And she was found to have possessions in her coffin. Now these possessions indicated that she was very wealthy, quite prominent, was found with certain items, and one item in particular, of course, is an ivory bangle, hence why the name Ivory Bangle lady. Now obviously the ivory would have came from Africa, so it suggests that she would have perhaps spent time in Africa, or absolutely descended from there, or her parents or her grandparents would have migrated to Britain at some point, if those analyses are relatively true, that she would have been of mixed heritage. But she was based on not just radiocarbon dating, but also radioisotopes and craniometric analysis, which is where they measure the skeletal features. Radioisotopes, they take chemical compounds and they look, especially from the teeth, and they find out what kind of diet people would have had. And so it very much points to her being of African descent, and also with the facial reconstruction as well, that science allows us to see what she may have looked like based on her skeletal features. Now the reason why she's also important, not in Black history, but also perhaps in Christianity, is because on her coffin there was an inscription that had said, "Hail sister, may you live in God." Now that is quite reflective of Christian beliefs. We don't know for certain, but it's indicative that it suggests that she would have been would have been a Christian, because pagan beliefs and certain inscriptions doesn't lend itself to paganism or to other Roman pantheon gods as well. So that inscription would have us to believe that perhaps she was a Christian. Now for me that's massive. Not only do we see early black presence in Britain, but how early do we now see aspects of Christianity? Long before the Saxons, long before that we're told in much later history, where Britain becomes a Christian country. But we see that here we see presence in Britain of black people, and clearly, as the evidence suggests, that we see presence of black people or Roman Africans who were also practicing Christians, which also lends to the fact, well, wasn't Septimus Severus persecutor of Christians? But if we go by the timeline, where Septimus Severus would have been in Britain during the 3rd century, died during the 3rd century, and it's believed that the Ivory Bangle lady would have lived during the 4th century. So that leaves a 100-year gap, and as we know, emperors and empire, the Roman Empire, their position on, they didn't just go after Christians. It was a case of, this is the state religion. Regardless of what religion you belong to, you have to pay homage to the state religion of Rome. And it was primarily Jews and Christians that had a problem with that, because there was only one God that ought to be honoured and worshipped. And so here it's fascinating to see that we see early Christian beliefs here residing in Britain, as well as having a black presence. So hope you learned something new again. Hope you enjoyed it, and as always, find out some more stuff about the Ivory Bangle lady. She, as far as we know, that there was an earlier presence in Britain, which is the Beecherhead lady, who is known to be the first black Briton on record. So have a research and look her up as well. And so till next week, we'll go in and we'll look at another aspect of black history that ties in with the faith. So take care, and I'll see you next week.